Underdog Daily with the BadgeBros. We got a very special guest behind the curtains right now. Another edition of Winner's Circle on a Monday. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. We got to say it again. They're going to have to start renaming this the Withdrawal Kingdom because I got a whole bunch of screenshots that flooded our mentions this week, Nez. Just more of the same week after week where the winners are hanging out.
That's what they're saying. More and more people are saying this. Was by and large a pretty good week for most of the community. I took my first L on the season for the week, so I'm licking my wounds a little bit, getting back into the saddle. Not overthinking things. I felt like we were directionally accurate enough that I can hang my hat on that.
I mean, I don't like to hear you taking L's out here, Nez, but such is the nature of these contests sometimes. And I think the big difference between you and I and some of the other members of the community this week is you're man of your word. You stuck with what you thought was the best of the upper echelon quarterbacks. That was the separator. And yeah, I mean, unless you were crazy overweight Lamar at the front end there, these scroll down quarterbacks were the great equalizer because you could jam in some of those flex plays and whatnot. Yeah, let's start with the community here, and that'll funnel our way into our special guest. Starting here, we got Mason in here. Pretty sick screen name, the Mob Bouse. I like it here, but coming in fourth place in 2 contests last night, a fourth and a third there. Oh, sneak peek as to who may be behind the curtain with that one. Little love to our guy Copper Prices here, who took down the most coveted title on the site there, the BadgeBros Brawl. Love to see it there. Our guy Dark Sheep, didn't he say to us that he wasn't going to go that hard for a second seat?
I don't think he did go that hard for a second seat.
He didn't go that hard. He just nailed another seat to the dog bowl. So our first 2-seat guy.
He's just going crazy, man. He just, I mean, dude cannot miss right now. Like the heater of all heaters.
No, I love it. I respect it. The Juwan Jennings scroll the F down play that we talked about a couple times this week and then just didn't get to or give it enough credence because I settled on the notion that his ceiling was like 480 and 1, and boy was I wrong on that one there. So big shouts to our guy Dark Sheep for getting there. Shouts to our guy Matt, who's always hanging out in the chat there. Had a nice little fourth place in there. He was directionally accurate as well. And then the leader of it all, the withdrawal king here. We got to give our shouts to our often on the clock co-host there, Pete. No longer Joe Verzette. It is it's absolutely on right now with this beautifully cromulent correlated lineup there, Nez. Anything you want to say on the weekend before we bring in our special guest?
No, I mean, I don't regret being very adamant that this New Orleans and Eagles game was going to be awesome. Because look, Pete won $1,000 on that game. So who cares what the total was and how much it went below? It's over under. It got somebody home, but no regrets there. I still think that the Saints are pretty awesome, but just kind of a strange way that game played out. But
yeah, it's really
we'll get them this week.
Yeah, I was about to say I was looking for cover boys for tomorrow's show for the preview, and I haven't drafted anything quite yet there for week 4. I'm not as sick as some of you guys in the community there, but I was looking at Chris Olave's ADP instantly, and he's a little bit buried in what could potentially be another good setup there. So we'll talk through that a whole bunch. But without further ado, man, we gotta bring up our guy here. He is base of Mt Rushmore, and it's primarily because he's only been a 2-sport athlete in the past here, but I have seen him mixing in some college footy now. He takes down a big ass primetime Palooza here. We knew him once as a hoops guy. He's making a case, Nez. He's making a case. But before we induct him to Mt Rushmore, we got to just put him into you know where. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh,
Let's see if the Techler's got it.
Yes, there he is.
What's up, guys?
Krutches, congratulations, my friend. Welcome back to the program. Krutches has been on a couple times with us. I think we did some dog bowl stuff last year together. We've done some hoop stuff together in the past. So glad to have you back, bro. Congratulations on the 20K last night.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I realized I think it was my biggest score since I think like hoops is what I haven't taken a 10K hoops down. I've only done I think like 6 and 8Ks. So yeah, feels good. I guess outside of the 10K dog bowl ones, but even those were 10K plus some upside, opportunities. So
nice, dude. Yeah, congrats. Biggest score to date on the slate. Love to hear it there. Jets. Actually, I'll bring up the lineup here and we can talk through kind of like macro principles of both the weekend and this contest in particular. Jets onslaught here for the 2-game slate, the Thursday plus Sunday night there. Did you max her out? What was your approach here?
Yeah, I thought I maxed it. I checked this morning. I had 120, so pretty close. I mean, it's just one of those. I feel like this happens every time you bink something where like the player you faded hits for you on like the one lineup you did play them in. So, basically I had 61% Kelsey on this slate.
Wow.
And I think I had 3% Tyler Conklin. And then I was kind of split between Lazard and Mike Williams. I think I was a little heavier on Mike Williams, just kind of playing the trend and usage. Turns out, I had some Lazard teams though, especially early in the week. And then, I had Brees and Bijan interchangeably 1-1, 1-2. Rashee Rice was like my top receiver. So just getting a lucky combo there, I guess. Probably like a Brees falls to 2 or 3. I don't remember the exact pick here. And then you get Rashee Rice, Drake London, mainly punted quarterback on the slate, I want to say. So I was just kind of taking whoever. But definitely lucky with like just obviously Conklin. Not having a ton of shares there, and then getting kind of the pairing of the top receiver running back combo. So
you really had to have Conklin and Lazard on this. I mean, it was shaping up to be like that. Obviously, after that Jets Patriots game, and it was like, well, maybe Pitts or Kelsey can usurp that. But the way the tight end has been going this season, that 11-8 from Conklin as a last or like 5-6 turn pick was just automatic. Like the optimal percentage was just off the charts with that. But for me, I didn't do a lot of Lazard plus Conklin. I was doing more like Conklin, Mike Williams. So I didn't have a lot of that pairing. I was close on your heels, but I mean, so was everybody else. I mean, you had a pretty that was a pretty tough sweat there, man. I mean, even for a second, you lost first. I mean, how are you dealing with that in real time? I'm sure you were sweating.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to, I've gotten a lot better at like sweats in general since like early NBA days when I first got into it, where I'm like trying to build a bankroll and like one win is such a big deal. I've gotten like way more numb to it. But yesterday, like I admit, like I was on tilt the entire day. I mean, it was just like there hadn't been a day where like literally everything went against you, or it was like so much JT. He gets, he could have 3 touchdowns. He gets 1 taken at the 1-yard line by Sermon. And then like the third touchdown, like nail in the coffin from Saquon, who I faded, was just like bad. Then I get to the afternoon slate where I'm like, well, I still have some like Saquon that I drafted like pre, projection sites. So I had some Saquon and I'm like, all right, like I just have like Kyler McBride on every team everywhere. And it's just like the entire day just can't get there. And then like the Juwan smash from like people somehow drafting him in 6-mans and obviously 12-mans. He was a good pick. But it was just like, between the night game, I just took like a drive in my car with like no music, just like tilting away.
Raw dogged the road.
Came back, threw in my showdown lineups, and like I think Codeman 4123, he like tags me in Discord. He's like, "Hey, don't look at Underdog," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I wasn't even like looking at prime time. So second quarter, something I got alerted to being in first, and I was like, "Hey, I'll grab a screenshot equity of this. I'm sure it won't hold up." But then like Bijan scored. And I didn't really sweat it till the third quarter, but like Bijan scored, the touchdown, and I was like, well, that might bump me. And I was like, oh, it didn't bump me. But then it made sense. Like Bijan has to flip Brees's score to count for that 1v1 probably. So I was still safe. And then it got kind of disgusting, like late third, when like Steele was just getting like 5 yards a pop. And I was just like, because the Mooney team was the one that like could have beat me, but it would have been like 10K versus 20K. So it still would have been like a 6 score. It was like 25 Steele teams behind me that were like, EDN's team was really close, but he didn't have London. So once London got a few catches, he dropped out. But there was teams that had Rasheed, London, and Steele that were 5 back. So if he had scored a touchdown, I was dust. So they were like 4 back. And long story short, like once Steele, I even joked about it, like, obviously not wishing for bad injuries, but I was in another group chat and I was like, can he just go to the blue tent for like 5 minutes, please? And he like comes out like holding his ribs. And I was like, dude, this is it. This is it. Yeah. So that was like, that felt good for like, just miss like a drive or something, please. And then when I remember specifically when the Chiefs punted and there was that like fumble, but his elbow was down on the punt return.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. First, I was like, if they score, it's okay because Steele is getting checked out. That was the drive. He was on the sideline getting checked out. So I'm like, if they score here, they have a big lead and Steele's not in the game. But I was like, a long field for Atlanta. I literally said in my head, like, if this could be an 8-minute drive, if they like score with 5 minutes left, that's good. Like, let's just nuke like 8 minutes of the clock. And they did and didn't score. So it was like perfect. And then I think from there, I felt pretty safe because at that point, it was kind of the like run it up the middle, Steele, punt the ball away for the Chiefs. So it felt a little safer that they wouldn't score again. And then, yeah, the last drive was like the Mooney 1v1, which, I mean, in theory, like projections, I'm like, I should be ahead of this. Like it's Drake London, but he did flip me once, and then London got 2 catches. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting sweat, but one that I was not like expecting with my exposures to that slate.
Yeah, I mean the exposure. There's a lot of stuff to dissect and take away there, but the exposures thing's always funny to me because you made a concerted effort to get over the field on the Kelsey stuff, and then the Conklin lineup gets home. So much of it is the combos and stuff like this. When you're playing these primetime Palooza slates, are you manually drafting all of them?
It's funny. I was going to mention this. I DM'd Numi this morning and I asked him, can you see if these are all like queued players or I actually clicked them? And he said, this was like, I hand drafted everyone except for Conklin, which makes sense. I go on auto once it's like the last tight end or quarterback on the board. So yeah, score one for the hand drafters. There's a hand built team. Although I will say, like, you naturally get some correlation on 2 gamers anyway. So like, I think it's fine to auto. I've been doing like, even on the 3 gamer here, I've been doing like, I'll do 20 by hand and then I might like auto 20 and just kind of like mix it up. Cause it'll also give you some weird, like, things you wouldn't normally build. Like, I don't know. Right. I see that a lot too. And like when you need to hit the nuts, at least, I think the guy who won the main BR on Pete was reviewing today, and it was like Lamar, Derrick Henry, and then Saquon Goddard, which is like 2 negatively correlated players on both teams. No bring back. Like it just, you would never click that by hand. So I think it makes sense to auto sometimes just to like get a few teams that are like, you would never actually click, where it's like, let's just say on this 3 game where you're like, oh, I'm going to take Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Zach Moss, and then I'm going to take like naked Dak or just something weird that you would never do. Like you might auto that and it might be, good. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm really cognizant of when I am building these by hand. And I usually do my primetime Paloozas by hand because they're 4-person drafts. They go faster. I'm usually pretty cognizant about like making sure that I'm, correlating or just not trying to pile in too many players from one team because of those factors. But like you're absolutely right, especially given the state of today's NFL, where if one team does go off, like there's a good chance that you need multiple pieces from that team in a fashion that maybe doesn't quite align with your, with the way that we think about these games right now. So it's definitely something to think about. Maybe not purposefully building quote unquote bad teams, but like doing 1 or 2 clicks every now and then that, you can't quite see the path for, but just being in the same game or on the same team, just trusting that they can absolutely own the highest score.
Yeah,
on the slate.
There were some hotly contested opinions yesterday in the Discord talking about some ownership and whether ownership matters on our platform and whether just projected points matter and that sort of thing. And if you think ownership matters, aping into some of that negatively correlated ownership of high owned pieces kind of makes sense, right? Like if you think through it now, I think the person who took down the battle royale this week, just happened to be a recreational player. And then the Juwan Jennings was just I know ball tack on kind of thing. So it's a separate conversation. But I do think there might be a little bit of merit if we know Saquon's drafted at 100% frequency. So he's going to be 16.66, whatever percent owned. That to pair a little bit of Goddard with it, not many people are going to be doing that in general, right? Like, so now does that become an intelligent play? I don't know. What would you guys say to that?
I think it really depends on, like you said, what your beliefs are in these contests. But if your beliefs are, ownership is the 101, then next level to that would be combinations, right? So
that's the showdown principle aspect of it, for sure. What do you think, Krutches?
Yeah, it's weird. I've been hand drafting more, I would say, this year than I did last. But I almost want to mix in more autos again, because part of me thinks like if an X% of the field is regs that are doing volume and they're all drafting intelligently, then it's like, at what point are we over correlating and bring backing and doing the stuff to where when that, like, let's say Dak, CD, Zay Flowers, there's Dak, CD plus Mark Andrews hits, like you are holding hands with how many people versus like naked Dak or, Dak with some, like in the late slate, I played a ton of Dak, Brandon Cooks. And just because like I was autoing till the last round, and then it was like, okay, I've got a naked Dak. I'll just, instead of like taking Whittington, I'll take, Brandon Cooks, even if he projects worse. So I think it makes sense. And yeah, I think there's some merit, and it's kind of why I've requested and pushed Numi to like re-add the positional limits feature, because it'd be fun to be able to auto. Like for example, in the Wildcat, I didn't want to auto 2 tight ends, so I just set McBride like 101 with Kyler, and then just put all the tight ends at the bottom. So I'm getting like 1 tight end or a punt tight end. So I'm not having to, but it'd be kind of nice to like, a lot of times I'll auto like 5 rounds and I'll just like click in when it's late and queue a quarterback to stack or something, to where it's like mainly auto draft with like 1 piece of correlation tacked on or something like that. So I think there's like interesting ways you can do it or get different in the field. To the Juwan example, I think it's like, it was a sharp play in 12-person rooms for sure. I had a few shares, but nothing that hit. But I think like that was just to where I was giving up too much projection. I think like Deontay was really sharp in 6-mans probably, where like he's right below what everybody's playing if they're just jamming ETR ranks. But so you're getting like actual, because guys might have like 32 ADP, but like DK was drafted all the time, stuff like that. And he was a good play. But like if you're taking one like little step, giving up like, I don't know, 10, 12% projection, you probably could have gotten to like a sub 1% owned guy. So that's probably sharp, but like Juwan was like a little bit too far for me as far as where he was going.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting conversation, and it just speaks to the levels in which we're still evolving in this game. And as tools come out, as projected ownership stuff starts to happen for this, like we understand that the life cycle of this game is, 4 or 5 years behind Redacted, right? So it's really fun to play catch up in some regard, but it's a very interesting thought process exercise to see what we should get ahead of. Before we part ways and stuff like this, we got another primetime Palooza tonight. It's of the 3-game slate variety. Well, there's a 2 that's already filled, and there's a new 2, and then there's a 3-game 1 there. What are some macro principles that you would advise us this evening to be executing to find success in that one?
I'm putting on the spot here. Let's see, for Monday night only ranks.
Well, I just mean just in general. You don't even have to look at the ranks or give us a player take in particular. Like, what's something that you just try and implement on a macro level for these primetime Paloozas versus the Battle Royale stuff versus the weekend stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the smaller the slate, obviously, it's technically more auditable because with 2 games, you're probably going to get some. Well, obviously, you'll get game correlation even with a quarterback, most likely, but you'll probably get some sort of random stack. So you could definitely auto it if you want. I think there's some interesting things I've done on, I think, the 3-gamer, where I'm actually pairing like Chase Brown and Zach Moss together as like 2 punt running backs, because like I start with like CD Neighbors or something like that. Ideally like Brian Robinson comes back to me or something, but if not, then I grab Zach Moss and then I grab, Chase Brown late. I wouldn't do it like too much, but I've definitely done some because that's like one that people just won't ever want to click. But if they get ahead, Zach Moss, can score from the goal line. Chase Brown can get like 150-yard touchdown and be optimal. So I think that's interesting. But I do feel like 1-1-3-1 feels stronger just because of how much there is of like the flat tier of Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Keon Coleman, even Mac Hollins, if you want to like Galbraith, stuff like that. There's like 5 or 6 receivers that basically can't all be drafted due to positional limits. So I think that late wide receiver tier is pretty interesting as far as like one of those guys is probably going to be more optimal than like the Chase Brown, Zeke, Dowdle tier. And then, if I'm forced to it, I'm probably going to like IKB and go Dowdle over Zeke. Just feels like, he's slowly getting some usage. Obviously the game script was in his favor more, but I think like the coaches will realize, I think the issue there is like long-term is that they still want to make like Deuce Vaughn run some snaps. So it's kind of a 3-man rotation, but I'd be curious. I haven't looked at the usage super close, but yeah, I think mainly like getting one of those late receivers. Like, I mean, Shakir is just like a screaming value where he's at right now, in my opinion. I have so many Josh Allen teams that are either single or doubled with Shakir, with Kincaid or without, or, and then Keon Coleman, if you want to go one further, but like, I think it's pretty clear at this point that like Curtis Samuel's kind of dust as far as his usage. Shakir is like clearly the alpha, even though he might theoretically have a lower ceiling. He's going to put up like 10, which is probably fine in this format, with upside for like a touchdown or something, but he's probably going to get like 8 targets. So I think he's a good pick. And then just like you should probably do min 1 Jax receiver, like I would think, including Brenton Strange. So that's interesting. And then tight ends is basically like the elite guy or one of Ertz, Strange, Gesicki, which you have to do. But I think Ertz is interesting because his projection is the lowest. So I think people are going to be a little grossed out to it compared to Gesicki's last game. So you might be able to get some leverage playing Ertz, which I actually like. So, and like tight end doesn't matter. So if you're just, a lot of times I'm just getting like the second half of the PTP for yesterday and today. I think I have 50% Jaden Daniels because I had all 4 quarterbacks literally projected next to each other in the same, like
I have 51%.
1 point. Yeah. And somehow like I just kept getting the cheapest guy. So I'm like, well, Ertz is, the most natural correlation piece. If he scores 5 points, he's probably optimal. Like just he's definitely fine.
Love it.
Yeah,
man.
this is a fun one. I like, obviously, I mean, it's just the way that the scheduling worked that we get this 6-team PTP. It's a lot of fun. The player pool is much deeper, which is like unusual and kind of makes me like a little nervous because when I do the regular 2-team PTPs, the player pool, I know exactly who is drafted. I know exactly who I want to draft. I know exactly who I want to draft here, except it's hard to get down to some of those plays. But I agree with your assessment, though, on the wide receivers, like especially in Dallas, where Dak's really spreading the ball around, and Tolbert has his ADOT is growing. Cooks can still catch touchdowns. I'm really interested in Ferg on this one. I will say I really liked the usage that he had this week. I had a lot of Ferg in best ball, so I'm very much a Ferg guy. But like you said, like it's so dust that like even if he does. John and I have talked about it a couple times. What does the tight end 1 need to do to be optimal? Like truly have to have optimal. And on this slate where you have more than just 4 viables, probably needs to separate by like 10 points. So that just is a tough bet to make.
Yeah, I mean, look no further than this week's BR winner, who we had a 22-point scoring tight end on the slate, and he wins the thing with 4 from McBride. I don't know. This is maybe one good closing one to ask you both and ask Krutches before he bounces here. I see it in the chat from Curated said, 1-1-3-1 has been winning in the BRs and that sort of thing. We talked about how this week kind of set up like that, and then a bunch of those running backs smashed anyways. Is there anything we can take away macro for through the first 3 weeks? Because it's really been these extreme outlier slates in terms of no Kamara, no money, no Juwan Jennings, no money. Like, I can't remember who week 1 was, but there was someone else who was like a big outlier score like that. Can we take anything away like analyzing this, or is it just like, all right, turn the page, next slate?
I don't know, man. It's not a good answer, but like, I mean, if you can predict like this new age NFL stuff, it's probably a massive edge to have just like an IKB on it.
Yeah.
I don't think like 1-1, 3-1 is necessarily like the answer. I think it's more, people have talked about this too, like looking at just heavier game stacking, like 2 games or 3 games or something with like a one-off. Just because like with the low totals, we almost just need like a certain game to get into a, you know, shootout mode. So, you know, that might be like, you know, I'm trying to think for like this weekend, but like we get, is it Atlanta, New Orleans, right? Like you could easily do like Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, and Rashishi. I mean, maybe that's too much, but like you go like, you know, in 12 mans, I'm thinking, but you go like, you know, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, bring it back with Darnell Mooney, Kirk Cousins, and, you know, whatever else. Like, but you can just kind of overstack like 4 or 6 spots from that game. Yeah. Side note, I did one dog bowl and I was like, why is Darnell Mooney free? Like he has a 30% target share and it's growing each week. Like, not that I'm like bearish on London. He's still probably the one, but we know kind of what he is. And then Pitts is going to get like 4 or 5 targets a game. So like Darnell Mooney is getting all of it. And it's kind of like week 1 was Ray with Kirk not looking fully healthy, but now that he's able to drive the ball a little better, I think it's just like they're feeding Mooney on screens and he's a downfield guy. Seems like a pretty decent play against New Orleans and what could be like a total shootout in division. So that's a fun one.
Yeah, it could be the game that we wanted from last week with New Orleans, right? Like that could be setting up for that. The Mooney thing, I laugh at the Mooney thing because that sequence at the end of the ball game there where they throw him 2 screens, one on each side of the field, and then they run with Algier on 3rd and 1, and then they set up Bijan for no success coming out of the timeout to run on 4th and 1 right into the teeth of the defense. It was pure comedy. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Before I did, but there was a couple of questions in the chat. How highly do you take Allen on a slate like Monday only?
Sure. Yeah.
I have Allen as the 1-2 behind Jamar Chase personally. He probably
on the
could
2
be the
gamer
1-1.
or on the 3 gamer?
Tonight only. So the 2 gamer.
Tonight only. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have him on the 3 gamer?
I'm still messing with it because I don't have, obviously there's no projections for Thursday. So I still have to like double check my numbers. I think it's pretty clearly CD Chase top. I put actually Neighbors 3rd above the running backs just because if he's doing that against Cleveland, like I was out on him this week because of Cleveland. If he's destroying Cleveland, like I don't see why Dallas is going to stop him. And then I have, you could put him 4th, I would say, or 3rd, or you could put him below the James Cook ETN tier if you wanted. I think he's like right around between 3 and 6 probably is where you want him. I've gotten a decent amount of him like at the 8 from the, like I'll get CD and then I'll get him at the 8-9, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I had him at 7 in my first 20 there, and then I think that might be a little too low, but I was just trying to create opportunities to get myself that super combo kind of thing. But I do agree with you. I did have Neighbors at 3 there. What was the other one you wanted to hit on?
Well, I guess Elite 1Z. I'm literally like so shook on, like I played 91% Kincaid on the Miami PTP slate, and because it was such a drop off, it was him, then what, Jonnu, Dawson Knox, and someone else. Like it was so rough. And honestly, like I think my process was there, like squeaky wheel. He got 5 targets, like basically out of the gate, I feel like, and then he got kneed in the head, missed 2 drives, and by then it was like 31-6, and Tua was dead. So like there wasn't much for him to do. So I'm kind of like just buying him again on this slate. But it's tough. At least the 3 gamer is tougher because Ferg is obviously the number 2 pretty clearly in Dallas too. But on tonight's slate, I think like I'm fine to run back Kincaid. But yeah, I think there's some value in being like just like a thought exercise. Like, would you rather be overweight, a really good play, or underweight, but the shares you do have are at a cheaper price where you get kind of a super team, right? So like, is it worth ranking Kincaid low? And then if you miss tight end, like who cares? And then when you do hit Kincaid, he's not like the 8-9, you get him at like 12-13 or something if he happens to fall once or twice. So yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, respect it for sure.
I like the Allen stuff because you can stack him pretty easily once you like stake your claim on him, which is like pretty nice, especially on the 3 game. 2-game, it is like a little tough for me because I like all these quarterbacks. I think Jaden Daniels obviously has his own standalone value. Burrow's in a smash spot. And I think the Jags are like any day now. They are bound to like look like a good football team. We'll see if that's against the Bills, because I think even before Tua, when Tua was healthy, it looked like the Bills are kind of giving him fits. So maybe it's not this game for the Jags, but I like all these quarterbacks, so I'm probably going to be lighter Josh Allen, but not a full fade, because that 30-point outcome we just saw already this season, and you have to respect his ceiling.
Yeah, the ceiling factor with the rushing upside comparative to every other quarterback on the slate. I mean, Daniels might give you some of that too, just in a different capacity. But the one thing that I think we can talk about or whatever is with the 3-gamers is there enough leverage to go down to the Lawrence and Daniel Jones tier? Because like you'll sacrifice whatever 2-3 points in projection. I don't know, but like what's the ownership discount that we're getting, especially versus Team Auto Bros, where they're just going to be capping it at Jaden Daniels every single time. So some of us hand builders thinking through this, I was like, naturally that pulls my elite onesies down like another step, in particular the quarterbacks, and then those back end guys I thrust up for leverage. Am I crazy for doing so?
I think I would probably, there's probably no need to get to Jones unless you should like want a Galbrain.
Yeah. Oh, I do.
Especially
Krutches,
since, like,
I do.
Yeah, I know you do. I just mean like based. This is like a obviously nerd numbers take, but like based on the projection you're giving up, plus Dallas typically being better against the pass than they are the run. Like I actually like Singletary probably in that game.
Okay.
And so I think like Lawrence would be the one to do it with, because we've seen him like have an elite rushing ceiling just randomly with like 2-3 rushing touchdown games. So, I think the way to do it is like if you're hand drafting and you've gotten like 2 Jacksonville pieces, like let's say you go elite running back, elite tight end, and then your first receiver is like Brian Thomas, you could just like double stack Jax and then pull him up. I think that's probably the way to do it. He's not as reliant on the receiver dragging him up as like a Minshew to Devontae or Tua to Tyreek, but it's still good enough that like I'd probably just double him and then pull him up. So yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's tie a bow on it, and then Nez and I will run down a little bit more this weekend and some PTP, walk through the Dog Bowl winners there. Thank you so much for joining us, man. I hope one day that you enter one baseball slate so that we can maybe consider pushing you onto Mount Rushmore.
I have. I cashed for like $35 on a single entry I did the other day, and you'd be proud of me. I just went like 35 ADP 1 overall as like just drafted I think it was Pablo Lopez, who ended up being optimal, was 1-1, and I just drafted the opposite pitcher to start and then stack 2 teams, and we had a pretty good run. But I have been like, if I'm bored, I'll just do like one team to like check out the baseball stuff. But I can never do volume.
I respect it, dude. Appreciate you so much jumping on. Appreciate all your contributions in the Discord, keeping that shit going, and appreciate you sharing your thoughts, bro.
Yeah, have a good show, guys. Good luck tonight.
Congrats, man. Wow, congrats again, man. Appreciate you.
See ya.
All right, Nez, let's let me do a little jump around here. Boom. Pete talked through the BR winner. We talked through the BR winner a little bit there. No Jennings, no big cash there. I don't know. Is there anything you want to say about any of these upper echelon lineups, or can we kind of just turn the page on to next week kind of thing?
I'd like to talk about these excuse me, these primetime slates. I will say though, I mean, I think a lot of people are maybe kicking themselves for not having Juwan Jennings in the main BR and like wondering, what's the takeaway here? How do I get on Juwan Jennings in the future? In the 6-person BR, I just don't know that like I'll ever get to Juwan Jennings in the 6-person BR. This also like, fully transparent. The main BR is not really like my main jam. I put way more entries into the bomb, into the fullback dive, all those other side contests, because I prefer the size of that more, while I still fire shots here. I just don't think it's something to beat yourself up over for missing. If you are that type of person that's really overanalyzing and like really like kind of like getting upset with yourself. I mean, like I floated it to you, but like I didn't have much conviction on it, like
Yeah.
I just, just like, hey, it's just literally just like next
Back
man
end
up.
12-person stack, whatever.
He
Yeah.
was undrafted in some of these 12-person drafts. So,
Oh, most of them. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You just got to turn the page. And I think with the nature of these games, like I can't draft Jauan Jennings this week because he's like wide receiver 16 right now, I think.
Oh my god. Well, it's very interesting because like the other end of the coin is like, he played very well in the postseason last year. He's 6'2", 220 or whatever. He is filling in that like zone wide receiver role when Debo's gone there. Is there any merit? Like I haven't looked at the matchup for this week or whatever. Is there any merit now that we've seen this new untapped ceiling that we did not think exist? Like, is there any merit to like, oh, this guy's actually a dog and he's actually like a top 30 wide receiver in this league or top 25 wide receiver in this league? Like, there's the other. That'll be the debate for tomorrow on the turning the page notion, right?
Yeah, and I got a strong answer. Can you just do me one favor, John, while we're on this screen? Can you click your far left arrow just to see what that team looks like? Just because there's just that one. There's just that one team.
Yeah. Baker, Tony Redacted, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Trey McBride, Mike
team.
Evans.
It's a great team.
What a scroll fest.
I mean, these are all good players, and it almost finished dead last. Like, what a week, what a game.
Yeah, for sure. I had a couple sweats in there. I was in 3rd/4th of the dog bowl for a long time until Juwan went nuts there and ended up knocking me out there. Did you have any like big sweats or anything you wanted to hit on? I think I said to you I lost like $2,000 on the Lamar run at the end there between the bomb and something else. But oh well. I mean another. Such is the nature of the games. It doesn't matter if it happens in the first quarter or on the last play. Such is the nature of the games. Is there anyone in particular you want to hit on?
I was 3rd in the fullback dive.
Oh, there you go.
Really close to first place, but Zay Flowers got abducted mid-game, I think. So just didn't matter, unfortunately. But really like this team. But obviously didn't get home there. And then I did have how many? I did have a Jauan Jennings team in the dog bowl.
Oh, but, okay. Yeah.
It was Jalen Hurts, naked, David Montgomery, Zach Charbonnet, Jauan Jennings, Jake Ferguson, and then Tyreek Hill. So you needed 150 to get there, and so I was 35 points away from Tyreek Hill. So that was never happening. But I had one Jauan Jennings team. So there's that.
Yeah, there you go. You can hang your hat on being there. I didn't have a single Jauan Jennings team across any of my contests in the 200 entries. I think it was 185 entries I did total across all contests there. This is the one I was referring to with the dog bowl there. It was basically the nuts from the morning, but some of those afternoon running backs ended up catching up to Taylor, so my separation was considerably less there. And then it was the Geno double that, if a couple of those Sharps looks goes the other way, RIP, but we were feeling good after that first bomb to DK Metcalf there, but couldn't hold out. Shout out to our guy Dark Sheep here who got on the double stack there with the correlation. Jauan Jennings with Brock Purdy there gets a run back with Kyron, who we discussed a lot this week, and then hits the perfect tight end and the perfect wide receiver to go with it in Malik Neighbors. Dare I say, top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I've been laughed off the planet a couple times this week alone, Nez, calling the Andy Dalton slop fest, saying Malik Neighbors is a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Can we agree that he is a top 5 active wide receiver in this league right now?
I mean, I like him too much to like care to debate it. So yes, I will.
Yes!
You have my cosign. I'm attached to it.
I mean, like the JJ and the CeeDee Lamb are the obvious names that come there. But AJ Brown's hurt right now. The Tyreek stuff is really bad with the quarterback play. So just given the situations and landscape right now, I'm very excited for Malik Neighbors, man. Shout out to Steady314 who got in here as well. And Asai for me. That's a fun screen name. Asai for me. Another Brock Purdy, skinny there. Gibbs as the flex play. Marv Harrison finding himself into the lineups there, a guy that I heavy faded this week. And steadies was Justin Jefferson at the front end there. Taylor, you needed Goddard in this format. Man, some directionally accurates for our boys up here, though.
I
Dave,
know.
Jewish McCaffrey, Best Ball Viper, TJ's got 2. Our guy Chad almost got another seat there. Wow, man, Deposit Kingdom all over it.
I know. It was a tough one. It was a tough one, but I mean, shout out Dark Sheep. That's so cool.
Yeah, very, very cool.
2 in 3 weeks is crazy.
Yeah, hyped for him. All right, Nez, let's do. We kind of did this slate at a macro level here, but let's just talk through some of your favorite clicks, some of your favorite plays, how you've been ranking it. I alluded to the fact that I think there's some leverage in getting to the back end quarterbacks in the third, in the 3-game one, just because of the leverage they introduce to the slate there. Anything you'd want to say on the quarterback position?
Just that the Trevor Lawrence, I think, is just like a really sharp click in these. You and Krutches kind of talked about it there, and I think just on so many levels it makes sense. For one, I just don't think they're as bad as they've looked.
Mm-hmm.
2, Trevor Lawrence is like incredibly easy to stack.
Yeah,
and 3, the way that they play right now, maybe they'll change their philosophy to try to get more success, but all they're doing is slinging this shit deep, man. I mean, when you look at the ADOT for these Jags receivers, they're all like 14 plus. So big games are bound to happen. Over the course of these 2 weeks, Gabe Davis, 15 ADOT, Christian Kirk, 17, Brian Thomas, 16. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Ingram has a 7 ADOT, but even Brenton Strange has a 17 ADOT. All these guys, all they're doing is just slinging this shit, man. So,
yeah,
if they connect, if they get some positive regression coming their way, I mean, this could be a big game, and they're gonna be pushed, right? I mean, I don't know how they're gonna stop the Bills on defense. If they do, then that's kind of a bummer, because then they're gonna probably lean more on ETN or take less shots. But to me, that just sets up for just like they're due for just a monster game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know from a football standpoint necessarily that I don't know. Like from a football like game dynamic and stuff, I just hope you're trailing. I hope they're trailing, and I hope they're still slinging it. That's like all I would say. From like a game theory standpoint in these isolated contests, like if you just pair Lawrence and Brian Thomas, who sometimes finds his way undrafted, together over and over again, I think you're giving yourself an opportunity at a Prent Fest. Because I mean, he sometimes goes undrafted, sometimes he's behind Wandell, like Robinson in the site projection. So if I just want to take some ceiling shots, like give me those ones. I do think it's interesting of note here with the ETN projection on the site associated with the Jags that like Tank Bigsby's buried down here. They carried the rock the exact same amount of times in the first game there. They trusted Tank after the fumble, but even before the fumble, they were giving him some work in their own territory, not down at the goal line or anything like that. So he misses last week, and now he comes back, and now he's treated like a pure handcuff, and we have ETN like way up here again. I think there's some leverage in having Tank Bigsby as your last flex play there as well.
Yeah, these running backs outside of James Cook are just like really, really tough to decipher. And I'm thinking really hard about how I want to play them, because like I love Devin Singletary. I think Devin Singletary might be like my second favorite on here, but like I'm not drafting him like that because I can get him like 3-4 turn a lot of the time. But he has a great role. Tracy was spelling him every now and then in that Browns game. Great role. Dallas been gashed on the run, but they've also played Alvin, the Saints, who run a ton of heavy personnel, and the Ravens, who also run the ball a ton as well. So that's not necessarily 1-to-1, but Singletary's role is still really solid, and he's a good player. Zach Moss, potentially really positive game script where he can probably get a lot of touches. Brian Robinson is probably going to get touches regardless. And then, like you said, ETN now has Tank Bigsby back. He had a really solid role week 1. Eye test says that Tank Bigsby looks like a pretty decent running back. And ETN just hasn't really been all that efficient in recent memory. So it's tough because if you're gonna lean on projections, they're gonna tell you ETN. Well, actually, I think Moss is projected higher than ETN in
Yeah,
like an offsite projections.
Yeah, it depends where you look. Like ETR, for instance, I think it's also an interesting debate with the quarterback. They're really leaning into the ineptitude of the Commanders' pass defense there because they have Joe Burrow over Josh Allen, which is an interesting little wrinkle comparative to, and that's in
I dig
FanDuel.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I will also say with the FanDuel projections and just transferring them 1-to-1 that you should also just use the half-point PPR ones because FanDuel did introduce bonuses this year, and in years past they had never had bonuses. Now they have bonuses, so like the 300-yard potential boost to Joe Burrow in projection might just be enough to flip him and Josh Allen, whereas we don't have that bonus on this site. And if it was just clean half-point PPR stuff, maybe these two flip back. I will say that.
Yeah,
but
never taking Allen over Burrow. But
you're never taking. You mean you're never taking Burrow over Allen?
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So you're sticking with what it says on the site, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
For sure.
I just thought it was noteworthy or whatever.
Definitely. I mean. Yeah, I mean, this Washington second, it's just kind of like a really good spot right now based on like where the public sentiment is on the Bengals to get on them, especially if you like trust T. Higgins and think that he's going to play, or he's obviously going to play, but think that he's actually, you know what I mean, not be a decoy.
Yeah, that's a very interesting conversation with T in particular because we've had these narratives in years past where it's like, oh, he's going to be a full go, he's ready to go, and then he plays this decoy T role. I do think the most interesting dynamic on the slate is then what does that do to some of the trickle down Bengal pieces? Because Mike Gesicki has a pretty high projection on here, and it's propped up by the fact that he had 11 targets last week or something insane. We talked about the
go ahead.
We talked about the narrative of KC getting absolutely cooked by tight ends through the first 2 weeks. They had the Isaiah Likely game the first week, and then they had the Gesicki plus alt plus sample game there in the second week. And then we saw Mr. Spicy Marks himself almost find the end zone, which would have been the miracle of all miracles to solidify the narrative that tight ends are cooking against the Chiefs. And maybe this is a design Spagnola thing to allow this kind of thing happening. But yes, I do think the trickle down effects of T really impact the slate because T is going ahead right now. In most rooms, he doesn't actually go ahead, but he's going ahead visually on the site ahead of Malik Neighbors, which I think is just a flat out mistake. And then there's like this stark tier break between all the flex players, and it's whether you rank T ahead of it or behind it. So what are you doing with T and some of the trickle down there?
I find myself taking T. Higgins as though he is healthy T. Higgins in a smash spot at home against the Commanders. So not over Neighbors, of course, but I think I would only take James Cook over him as far as flex plays, so it's going to leave me with a lot of T. Higgins, but I think it's the way to go. I will say, and we definitely need to dock Gesicki with T. Higgins coming. Gesicki ran 21 routes and saw a target on 9 of those last week.
That's wild. That's wild, man.
That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. I don't want to
script him open, baby. Scheme him open. Let's go.
I don't want to Gesicki.
Aren't you going to throw to him?
Yeah, duh. Right. I mean, it's Mike Gesicki. What are you going to do? He went to TEU. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, it's not Mike Gesicki, Nez. It's Mike Gesicki, bud.
Yeah. So respect him. And it's that stuff because this is such a good spot for him coming off that game. Tight end looks nice and deep. You don't really need to force yourself to take Kincaid unless you really want to, because wide receivers also deep. If we're talking the 6-person drafts, which we are right now, and you think Kincaid is due for a big game, this is a great time to do it because you have pretty decent options at wide receiver if you decide to wait on your last wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree. The ADOT stuff with Kincaid kind of scares me right now a little bit, but as Krutches alluded to, he was banged up in last game there. I've been doing some scrolling at the tight end position. I've been doing Ferg over Kincaid in the 3-game one. like this. And then I've been placing them behind some of the flex options. So I'm not getting a great deal of them. And then I just do last round tight end. And if Strange is there in the last round, I do take him unless I already have 2 Jags pass catchers. I've been doing Ertz over Gesicki there. And then I've been doing a little bit of Dawson Knox tethered to Josh Allen as a potential leverage play there. And the sick, twisted man in me, this was more on the 2-gamer there, Nez, is I've been scrolling all the way the F down here to Eric All.
Okay.
I have 5 Eric All shares in the previous 2-gamer that is now closed. I did 30 entries in that one, I believe, 28 or 30 this morning to that one. And they like Eric All. They can't stop talking about Eric All. They want him to be the tight end of the future. That ever since camp, they've been glossing this guy up. If you look at ETR, the projection of All adjacent to Sample is like identical, and Sample was getting drafted a little bit in the other one and completely none at all in this one. I don't know. Could he be inactive? Could he be? I don't think he'll be inactive. But could he not matter at all now that T. Higgins is back and they play no 12 personnel and whatever? Absolutely. But if I want a little contrarian tack on to my Burrow shit, I've done it a handful of times.
Yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on throughout the season, right? Like he has some buzz. The team does seem to like him, and it's only Gesicki ahead of him. So, I mean, I don't think Gesicki has to do a whole lot to kind of lose his grip on the tight end 1 in quotations there in Cincy, because it is a bit of a rotation. I mean, they have Sample, who you and I both adore, and All, and Tanner Hudson as well. I mean, so they just literally just like grabbed all of team preseason.
Oh yeah,
circa 2021, and just like threw him on one roster.
Get Austin Severian Jenkins on this shit, man. Get him out of here.
I mean, it's a loaded tight end room. Let's be real. This is the best tight end room in the league.
Yeah. Hey, Drew Sample, good boy. All right, Nez. Let's talk about. Do you have a lean at the wide receiver positions? I know I saw your exposures. I think you're in lockstep there with Khalil Shakir, kind of like going over. You're not scared of the fact that Keon Coleman played 90% of routes last game? Was that a byproduct of the game being out of reach, and then they took like Khalil off the field because of such? You know, there was 20-point margin there, and Tua had been knocked out of the game. You don't think the snap rate for Coleman is sticky comparative? You think Shakir's their guy?
No, I mean, I definitely think Coleman has potential. The Shakir stuff on this Primetime Palooza, that went last night and concludes tonight. I have 50% Khalil Shakir because I saw there was 3 minutes left and the lobbies needed filling. So I typed in 7-0 and entered, and it just so happened to be that Khalil Shakir was available in most of those drafts.
Okay,
so
got it.
That's what happened there. I don't hate it because I think Khalil Shakir like works in multiple game scripts where if they're trailing, he's running routes, he's involved. If they're up, he's still involved as well. But like, I think Keon Coleman, I wish his projection was lower on the site. Mm-hmm. I don't know how closely people will follow this. I set ranks. I never go off default when I draft these contests. I wish he was lower because I think people would be like fading him for the donut that he put up last week in that like just non-competitive game. Mm-hmm. He could definitely be involved here for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a lean on the Jags, guys? I've been clicking Brian Thomas over the grouping. I think Christian Kirk is the safest and will project. There's the Gabe Davis revenge game narrative baked into this one as well. But like, I'm just buying talent, and man, can I just keep drafting LSU wide receivers no matter what? I'm just gonna keep drafting them no matter what.
Safe. DJ Chark, come on down, right? Yeah. No, I agree. Like, honestly, man, I didn't know that BTJ was below Kirk and Davis because my rankings have BTJ 1 out of the Jags guys, and I've been kind of cycling through all 3 of them because like I don't know how. I guess if I was to have conviction, like it would be BTJ first. Like I said, I have him ranked first, but like I think Gabe Davis's role is like really solid right now, and I don't know. I can't come on here and tell you I know who's going to have the best game out of these guys. So I'm just kind of I'm mixing in all of them, but I think they're all amazing clicks. I will give them the adjective of amazing on this game because I think this is going to be a game where they're going to have to throw a lot.
Okay. Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. Let's hop in one here and then kind of talk through more of it on the fly. I will leave no projections up for that. Let's hop in this main one, the 3-gamer. Snap,
Nice.
Phil. Here we go.
I love the variety that we have here. I mean, I understand the Monday night Palooza 2 filling as fast as it is because that pays out tonight. So people want that. They want those entries in, and we might end up getting a third one for 50K as well. I mean, the second one, dude, maybe not 50K. I don't want to put Numi on the spot here, but I mean that thing closes at 6:17 Central Time. That's 4 hours and 17 minutes. It's 59% full. We're definitely getting some variation of another Monday Night Football Palooza because that's going to fill very, very soon. But a pretty cool wrinkle. I don't know why the NFL decided to give us 2 Monday night games, but it makes for fun primetime slates.
Yeah, it makes it really fun for the primetime Palooza stuff for sure. There, I love these 3-game slates. It's just primarily because of the leverage it introduces, or lack thereof, pending your vantage point. Nez, who is your 101 bin?
Honestly, Ja'Marr Chase.
Interesting. Okay, so you got Ja'Marr Chase over CeeDee Lamb. You are drinking the Kool-Aid that the Commanders secondary is so bad. You are not scared of the fact that T. Higgins is back to potentially eat into workload. You think that opens up something for Chase tonight?
Absolutely. And if I end up getting way overweight Ja'Marr Chase, I think that's a feature, not a bug.
Interesting. Okay, very cool, man. I respect it a lot. I've been doing CD over Chase just because I'm a ADP and projection slappy. I'm an absolute honk and a coward here. Nez, I am Nez Hedge of this slate. We got a friends and family here. Alejandro in here. We got Jacob, Dog Bowl qualifier from last year, in here. Math, if you are in here, say what up. All right, Nez, we get posed with this interesting scenario now where we take Chase, Burrow comes back to us, T. Higgins comes back to us, so does Zach Moss, Brian Robinson. Singletary goes a bit earlier here. Who would you be thinking about?
I would definitely be thinking about T. Higgins and Terry McLaurin, and then one of these running backs. Let's try to do the double. Let's see if we can make that happen.
Okay.
Now the question is, like, when you do the double, how does Brian Robinson get home if these guys are getting home? Is it just like, or does Zach Moss make sense where, okay, these guys scored, now they're icing the game? I'm okay with Rico if we end up like punting these guys, but I would prefer probably Moss, I guess, or Terry. We can just go Terry.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very interesting spot because, like, I think in a room with some non-Badgers and stuff like that, I would just take Burrow if you want to do the double, because getting hung out to dry without Burrow on this roster would feel like kind of gross. But if you tack on Terry, it gives you the out at Jaden Daniels there. So yeah, I can see it both ways there. I've seen people go naked Burrow. I've seen people take Burrow with Brown or Burrow with Moss there. I think it's probably too much, though. We did see it almost get home a little bit different with Krutches lineup there because he utilized the tight end position. I think that matters when you're talking onslaught stacking. But yeah, I think it might be a little too much to take Moss with that. I have not been building like this. I have not been doing this. I think I would have propped up one of the tight ends there and or just done Burrow with the Bengals stuff, but I'm interested to experiment and see how this goes, because locking up 3 wide receiver spots early in these drafts feels really bad to me, because the difference between Terry and like 6th round Brian Thomas is not substantial enough to warrant the capital, in my opinion. So this will be an interesting one to navigate here.
Yeah, and we got to hope Rico Dowdle's role continues to increase, which, I mean, he looked good when he had the ball in his hands, and the role has gotten larger. So there's a chance that they roll, and Jacob goes double tight end there. Interesting. Yeah. So we don't have to worry. We can get Dowdle on the last pick. This is Burrow, I think, one of them.
Yeah, so
we don't
nobody
have to
else can.
Dowdle.
Yeah, nobody else can take a running back now because he's filled his flex with the tight end. 2 running backs are gone for each of them. So Rico will be our last pick. Although there is some merit to potentially Austin Eckler as your last pick and going full game onslaught here.
Yeah, definitely.
Tight end position, then do we just take some projected points in Strange as like the one touchdown scorer from the Jags, and we bet that all the wide receivers fail, or do we do the Zach Ertz game environment play?
Let's do Strange,
Okay.
and then leave ourselves that option of maybe going Eckler in this game where, hey, it's trailing game script. We have seen Eckler used in the past game a little bit with Daniels, even though Daniels feels a little bit of pressure and doesn't even think about checking down. That's the last thing on his fucking mind, because he's just going to run like a madman. But Eckler has been used, and like Brian Robinson is still not catching passes. So there's a conversation there to be had.
Yeah, to your point here, I'll just bring up the actual information because I was looking at it before, but I think it was 60% of snaps to 43. The Austin Eckler versus Brian Robinson's split in Brian Robinson's favor. They have basically not used a third running back at all. When people were talking about Chris Rodriguez earlier this season, like he hasn't even played. He was inactive for one of the games. And then the first game was 56-53, which means they had a little bit of overlap there between Robinson and Eckler, the last one. So what do you think with this one? Do we bet on Rico being the game environment scorer that you need from the Dallas and Giants game, and Strange from the Buffalo and Jags game? Or do you bet all in on this game tonight with Cincinnati and Washington?
Yeah, this is definitely tricky. My initial read was Dowdle, but maybe Eckler is what is like the better pick.
Okay.
If T and Chase are getting home, they probably need a little bit of pushing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe not. It's at home. They could really use a get right game. Even if that's the case, I think Eckler still gets some run. So I think Eckler's the pick.
Very fun draft there. We saw a bunch of really talented players go undrafted. We did the double stack with double game bringbacks there. We did Burrow plus Chase, Higgins, Strange at tight end, and then Terry McLaurin and Austin Eckler on the bringbacks for the audio listeners there. But that was a fun one because as you saw, Daniels went undrafted. Wan'Dale Robinson went undrafted. Christian Kirk went in the last round. Yeah, so there's some premier talent. Gabe Davis went undrafted in that one. So, I mean, much more so than your standard primetime Palooza slate, there is big time leverage in scrolling because there are still good plays down here. Like if you get a 12 carry game out of Tank Bigsby and he finds the end zone tonight, like that's a big deal on a slate like this.
Yeah, he's definitely interesting if you end up doing what we did and, taking 3 wide receivers early. I think there's definitely some credence to taking Tank Bigsby today. If he needs to get into the end zone, but I don't think that these running backs that go ahead of him outside of, James Cook, of course, have immense upside beyond him, right? It could be a situation where, he scores 5th most or something.
Yep.
But these other guys just don't separate enough, and you actually needed the pairings that you got in lieu of those other running backs. So I'm like that. Like I'm not going to have a lot of Tank Bigsby, but the leverage there I think is real for sure.
Which of the 3 game environments do you think is like least likely to get home, live up to total, live up to situation?
Probably Cincy, Washington.
Okay. And you just
which is like weird to say.
One side doesn't get pushed kind of thing?
Yeah. Like if I think this is going to be kind of tough for the Commanders.
Okay.
I like Neighbors here.
Yeah, Neighbors is my 103. So the board runs off. We got another friends and family here. Buster Boys, Shimmy, and Chris. And we got Chase, Lamb, Cook. So we go Neighbors here. And then it really opens up what we think of Travis Etienne, what we think of the running backs there. Do we like T. Higgins enough to push him up, or do you just close your eyes and go, the offense runs through Josh Allen? Let's get ahead at the onesies. What do you like?
I think you can do Josh Allen here.
Is that what you like? Like in general, that's what you've been doing?
I mean, I've been mixing it up, but I think we should try doing a little Josh because like none of these like flex players like really stand out to me pretty heavily. And Josh just has the ability to take over a slate. So I think just like when in doubt, like take Josh.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my instincts with both of the first two drafts we've done on stream are the complete polar opposite of what I've been doing on my own. So it's just very interesting to talk through it together. Yeah. Like my instincts I would never take Josh here. And my instincts with the last one, I would never fill the flex before I had to. I would have taken one of the tight ends, prop them up. So we didn't do the strange pick there. Yeah. I don't know. It's very interesting to just talk through the dynamics. So it's fun to experiment with these to see what we like best.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You kind of have to try out different things just to confirm that like it doesn't feel good, you know? I mean, or at least give yourself some different builds. You know, whenever you're running hot or, you know, just have a lot of conviction, it's easy to ignore possible outcomes, but you know, one losing slate will definitely open up your third eye. Let me tell you.
I don't need to lose a slate to open up my third eye, Nez. I've lost plenty of slates in my life to have my third eye wide open. Terry goes there. I would hammer the table for Ferg as one of these two picks here. We might get boxed out at running back if we don't take Singletary alongside it and have to do some super scrolling. So I would probably say Ferg and Singletary, but I'll hear you on anything.
No. Let's go Ferg and Singletary. We can still probably get a Josh Allen stack piece after. Regardless, like, you know, you take Josh Allen 5, you're hoping for a rushing touchdown anyway, so you don't necessarily even need that stack piece if we aren't fortunate enough to get it. But I like this start quite a bit. Like, I have no problem starting off a team like this. What do you think about maybe more of a Monday Night Football play? Monday Night Football only. You know, if you don't think T is 100%, what about a little Yoshi Boss with this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely overlap in their roles more than like Burton. Like I've done the Burton scroll. I did the Yoshi one on auto by accident. I did the Burton scroll because of the home run upside potential and like the rotational X thing. So if like Chase plays like 85% of snaps, and then if there's garbage time, I think Burton would play and Yoshi wouldn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think the overlap in T and Yoshi's roles are much starker than like Burton and T's roles. So I think if you play the narrative that T isn't 100%, it's smarter to take Yosh. I think if you play the narrative of who could be a break the slate third wide receiver to mix in, I think Burton could be that guy as like the one-off home run hitter, but he's only going to play like 15 to 20% of snaps. I think that would just kind of be like my initial. I know Yoshi scored 2 touchdowns last week, but his role was very, very limited. And they
didn't he only have like 7 yards?
Yes. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. It was basically only those red zone ones. Okay, we're gonna have a decision at the wide receiver here. Khalil Shakir goes there. So Coleman comes all the way back to us. That is the nice thing about being the card holder of the Josh Allen. Is there any merit to scrolling to Curtis Samuel tonight at all, or will you have none?
Monday night only for me.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that's tough to get here. I need to see that one first.
Okay. Keon Coleman then seems like an easy set up the stack with Josh Allen there. And then I'll ask you who you want the flex play to be. I think Christian Kirk will project the strongest. Gabe Davis probably has the highest crazy ceiling outlier. And then you could scroll to the running backs. Who do you like?
What do you think? Here's the age-old question: best plays or best leverage? Because nobody in their right mind would like look at these options and be like, give me Jalen Tolbert when I already have Jake Ferguson and I'm betting on a big Dallas game. But we have Singletary and Neighbors here, kind of betting that this game shoots out. Tolbert's been getting some deep shots. I'm going to stop myself there. I think we go Kirk or Gabe Davis. But I really do like Jalen Tolbert in this matchup here. Let's do a Gabe revenge game, man. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, let's do a Gabe revenge game, and one long touchdown is what pushes score for that game environment. I think if we had Dalton Kincaid here, maybe I would rather play like Onslaught Buffalo and then play Tolbert from the other game there. Tolbert got a red zone target last game and converted. Brandon Cooks had a drop in quotations, but it was a pretty tough ball to catch there in the end zone. I think my initial reaction was I thought when you were telling that story, Nez, that you were going to go to Tank Bigsby. I thought that's how you were going to tell the story, was how they get pushed is Bigsby bangs it in.
Yeah, you definitely could, right? But doesn't that, I mean, like, maybe that's the secret to these games is like, that's not even like an ADP thing, right? We talk often about like seeing the ADP and scrolling. This is just straight up a projected points thing. That just feels like pretty bad to do. But somebody with bigger stones than me, which I mean that's an easy bar to clear. Should definitely be doing Bigsby there.
Someone who knows how to jumpstart a car without Googling it will.
I didn't even have to Google, man. I just you're gonna make me pull back the curtain and break the fourth wall. That was just a great conversation for a stream.
Oh man. All right, let's rip another one of those 3-mans, and then let's do maybe one or two of the 2-mans and call it a show there. Let's do the primetime dive. Let's do the $25 price point. See if we can fill one of these.
That thing is filling fast, man.
Yeah, we got one more spot in here. Audio listeners, on the last one there, we took Neighbors. We took Neighbors and Josh Allen at the 1-2 turn there, and then we got Coleman to fall back to us. We took Gabe Davis for the game environment play, and then we took Jake Ferguson. We pushed him up a little bit comparative to the other tight ends to get ahead at tight end. I like that team more than the first team that we built. I will say that.
That team was really nice. 101's kind of tough. I'm not gonna lie. I think 102 is where it's at.
I agree with you. The 101, I've been taking CD because T falls back, and because I think I can push Dak further than I can push Joe Burrow. And sometimes you get Josh Allen to fall to 118. So that's my reasoning collectively for why I've been doing CD over Chase at the 101. Just because of the builds, the way they set up, I like them slightly better. But I do agree with you. If I could pick my draft slot over and over again tonight, it would be 102 or 103, like one of these middle pocket ones.
You want to try CD?
Yeah, let's try CD for stream's sake and for my $25 sake.
Yeah, that as well. I need to get into these dives, man. I love the 5-man, the 5 max $25 price point. That's really my jam. I've got most of my volume today is in the form of pick'ems too, because I got some sympathy donkey specials since I've just been punting off in the pick'em lobbies. So I've got some pick'ems there. Maybe we can take a look before we sign off. Absolutely. Because there's at least one play that I feel very confident in, but
Okay, sounds good to me. Very interesting to see Tricky go James Cook and Kincaid there. So he's playing that game environment through the tight end and the running back. As comes to my premonition here, Nez, with a badged up room here, that Josh Allen falls to the end here. I like taking Josh Allen here when he falls to the CD Lamb drafter. I would also consider Ferg as a potential play here, but I don't think you want to lock up both onesies that early. I vote Josh Allen, and then would ask you who your favorite running back is.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. I really do like Devin Singletary, but I think Zach Moss is pretty strong leverage going when we went CD here, right? If they end up like getting close to the end zone and or just like having really positive game script, there's a chance Zach Moss is touching the ball 20 times.
Yep, 80% of snaps last game. Saw the Chase Brown role slightly reduced there. So, yeah, I would go ahead and take Zach Moss there. Jump Free does this double Cincinnati stack, which is what we did in the previous one. I think if you really want to do the GM creator in an all red badge room here, you just push Joe Burrow after you have both here, and you see that I took Moss. I think if Moss is on the board, it's a different conversation because I think people are way less likely to go like, and especially when one tight end's gone on the other side of the board, I think someone's going to be way less likely to be wanting to do Burrow Gesicki or Burrow Brown if Moss was still there.
Would have taken Singletary there or
Yeah.
Brian Robinson. I think because now you're looking at the Dowdle Bigsby range now. Eckler.
Yeah. Yeah, so don't mind me jump free while I just
piling on.
While I just pile on. Yeah, good idea. My bad.
It's funny. Okay. Thanks there you go.
Brian Thomas goes there, which is kind of unfortunate. I would float the Khalil Shakir your way alongside Josh Allen here.
We could double it up if you want, or if you just want to do one, we can stick with Shakir.
I'm leaving the light on for a tight end play. To do like the Dawson Knox for the double here. So I think I would take like Christian Kirk. But
let's
you
look
could
at
also
these tight ends before we like commit to your Dawson Knox play.
Yeah, I mean the combination of Strange or Gesicki, one will come back to us.
Okay.
Ertz might still be there. We don't have to do it, but I'm not in love with double stacking Josh Allen because I do think for him to separate on the slate and get that 31, he does have to get
a Jag
into the
or Wandale.
I think we do a Jag here. I like Christian Kirk in a vacuum more than Wandale.
I think Christian Kirk is the play too. It's the ultimate process over results thing where you just like throw out the first two games that we have of Christian Kirk and just know that he has a pretty strong sample as a Jaguar with Trevor Lawrence in a spot where they're probably gonna have to throw.
Call the sack narrative, baby.
I think this is the like you just take Christian Kirk and if it fails, you just chalk it up to he was a good play, which like boy, I can already hear myself like kicking myself for this shit. But
I think if Brian Thomas was there, Jump Free went ahead and took him there. I would have done him in this one here, and done like Khalil Shakir and Brian Thomas here. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how far you got to scroll in a 400 person contest versus the 11,000 person contest here. So maybe like you just take the projected points at tight end now. It'd be interesting to see if he stacks it up with Gesicki or he goes Ertz as the bring back. I like that play there. Do you like Strange as the bring back or do you like the correlated Dawson Knox piece?
I think I prefer Strange or Gesicki.
Okay. Let's play the game environment and take Strange. Then Dawson Knox has played 58% of the snaps in the first game and then 53 in the other one there. But Strange's A-dot coupled with the fact that Evan Ingram's missing tonight, just he feels safer, right? There might be a little bit of concern, negative correlation in the overlapping roles of Strange and Kirk. Comparative to doing Strange and Brian Thomas or Strange and Gabe Davis. Maybe there's a little merit there that there's some bad overlap there, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like Knox, just the uniqueness that you get with Knox, like I don't know how much it really helps unless he really goes off, right? Like 2 touchdowns is that type of thing. Because otherwise, I feel like I don't see him scoring 10 points, Yeah,
but I mean, you could win with 4, right? Like you could win with 4 on this slate where Kincaid does exactly what he's done the first 2 games. Ferg gets, focal point of the defense bottled up, somehow goes 4 for 30. And then you just play it like that. Thursday night divisional clunker, game falls flat on its face. Ferg doesn't matter. But you can tell yourself a story on these short slates where,
definitely have to.
Yeah. I mean, 1 touchdown could be all you need. I mean, maybe more than you need from the tight end position.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the debates about like projection and sacrificing projection and stuff because like football is a binary outcome sport. It's fucking 6 or 0 for a touchdown. So if one tight end projects for 2.9 and the other one projects for 4.1 and the other one projects for 6.3, none of it fucking matters, right?
Yeah. Especially we know that by now with tight end.
Yeah, exactly. We roll the 1-0-1. We've switched contests now. This is only the 2-gamer. I'll mentally recap if I can remember here. But Jamar Chase with a bullet, as Nez would say, is the 1-0-1 in the second slate. Audio listeners, the team from the previous one there, we got Josh Allen to fall back to us as a CeeDee Lamb drafter from the 1-0-1. CeeDee Lamb, Josh Allen, Christian Kirk, Khalil Shakir, Zach Moss, Brenton Strange in the last round there. Another friends and family room here, Nez. We got Fully Loaded beside us. We got Krutches, our winner's circle guest of the day. And then we got Dirtbag XB43. What a beauty. At the end there. What's been big difference for you on the 2-gamer, Nez?
Having to deal with these fucking running backs that you're left with when you take Chase 101, which I still think is fair. I still think he's the right call, but it feels a lot worse. We're going to be looking at T. Higgins here. We're looking at Terry McLaurin here. I think you do the double.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily mean we do Joe Burrow here. I mean, I know he's the top of people's queue, but I mean, I would go Terry, but I'm not like super confident Terry's going to outscore all these guys.
Yeah, I think there's definitely mixed conversation to have there. It's not really worth it getting ahead at tight end either once Kincaid goes. So I think we just take Terry and we play the game environment and we hope that the 8 targets finally materialize into some deeper shot potential there. Play the game. Krutches is auto drafting the 5, so he takes naked Burrow from us. That's kind of what I was alluding to last time when we did this exact same start, was that Burrow will go on you sometimes, and now you're just drawing stone dead in a vacuum. But you can still get it home with Daniels. So it's probably better to take Terry with it than to take like Coleman there, for instance, because then at least we gave ourselves an out. I think I would flirt to land this plane to you. Something getting really funky here with a garbage time potential. Fully Loaded takes a receiver, which he didn't have to do, which gives us an out.
Let's just take Daniels.
Yeah, I think we take Daniels for sure. And then I think I would take Zach Ertz.
We don't need to do the running back first. I guess Krutches, Dirtbag. Okay, so it's just
2 running backs,
loaded.
2 running backs.
We're fading.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't really want Chase Brown on this team when we have 2 Bengals. I don't think he'll take Tanks Bigsby. He might.
Ertz, you said?
I think Ertz is more likely to go than Bigsby's going to go, and we just
definitely. Yep. Because I've been boxed out at tight end before at the 101 where I push it and heavy regrets every time, because then I'm looking at your boy Dawson Knox without Josh Allen a lot of the time too, which is like
exactly. The meta of these lobbies considerably different than the 3-game one, where there's less leverage in the scroll, obviously, and some of the scroll plays are like super gross. So you kind of have to get ahead at the running back position. I think if you want to ape into projectable volume, closing the door at wide receiver like we did with the Terry pick, like just closing the door at wide receiver in all of these rooms feels bad, because like there's still scroll options that I like here compared to the other positions.
Yeah.
Nez, I'll ask you to tell a story with our lineup here. We could go full game environment, and this just goes nuke, and Chase Brown is the guy you need, or we play Tank Bigsby from the other game environment, usurps the usage. Tank?
Yeah. Okay. Definitely Tank. Like no question.
All right. Sounds good to me. Man, that was my first of the Monday night only. Should we do a pick 'em and then close the door on the show so people can go check out the Deposit Kingdom thought leader joining Davis Maddock in 6 minutes time here?
Yeah, let's definitely check it out.
Okay.
The one that I really like right now is James Cook scrimmage yards.
Okay.
I like that way more than the fantasy points, because I kind of want to see that goal line roll materialize before I take the fantasy points on James Cook, but like this dude has looked really efficient on the ground, still involved in the passing game as well. I don't see how he isn't like one of the main focal points tonight against Jacksonville. He can get there in like multiple game scripts, in my opinion. So really like the scrimmage yards for James Cook tonight. That's been like a centerpiece for my pick'ems tonight.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I love the thesis. I love where you're at. I love the debate in fantasy points versus just the yardage, and getting there on the yardage gives him multiple paths. Whereas you probably, to get there on the fantasy points, need that touchdown production. And he might have just been running uber hot through the first 2 weeks there on the positive touchdown regression there. I'm doing some scrolling here as per usual.
How do you think that this Cincinnati team, like I think the Bengals or the Commanders can fail in multiple ways, right? We haven't seen Daniels look super efficient in the air and whatnot. How do the Bengals fail? I know it's supposed to rain tonight in Cincy. I think I saw. How do the Bengals possibly fail? Like the Commanders didn't even double up Malik Neighbors last week. Malik Neighbors, hello, the best one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in years on a Giants team that you have like nobody else to worry about, and they don't double Malik Neighbors. How are they going to possibly defend these Bengals?
Yeah, it's a very fair point. My mind goes, when I go in the pickup lobby, my mind did not go there. My mind goes to like, I don't really care. I'm just searching for like some super gross ones that I wanted to hit lower on. But to answer your question, I don't think they can contain Chase. So I think that would be like the 101 of the conversation. Yeah, maybe they've learned a lesson about bracket coverage on X wide receivers, or maybe they treat Chase differently than Neighbors. Maybe the next time they play Neighbors, they'll treat him like Chase. Maybe they just didn't know what they were dealing with in Neighbors the first go around. There could be something there. But yeah, I imagine that Cincinnati's going to want to play with a little bit of tempo, with a high pass rate over expectation, that this game should move. That being said, a little bit of rain, a little bit of failed runs. They trade some possessions early on there. That's kind of like the saving grace potential for the Commanders. But I do agree with you. The other side of the coin seems far more logical, that they attack it through the air, through Chase. That's why he's the 101, right?
Yeah. Not that we have to play one of those. I'm just wanted to talk about that game. Chase Brown's numbers are pretty interesting though, man. I mean, 40 scrimmage yards, I think, is much higher than what the field would expect from Chase Brown.
Yeah,
based on the lobbies.
I think that's baking in a little bit of like potential garbage time, given like the spread, the situation. So I think that's like one of those gross ones that you're like sweating like late into the game. Because I was thinking similarly with like Trenton Irwin down here. Like I was like, man, I just want to hit these lowers on Trenton Irwin and Eric All as well. Like I was just kind of like,
what, Eric All?
Yeah,
you just gave him an endorsement.
Yeah, but that's for pure leverage and scroll. That doesn't mean I like him. Like, like they like him a little bit, but like anytime I can take some lowers
Mask
on
off, John, man.
Some dudes. Wow, there's difference.
I know, we're
in
playing a different game. We're playing a different game.
I mean, like anytime I could take some lowers on like some dudes that might only play like 16% of snaps or like 20% of snaps, like I'm gonna start searching for those ones. They did use all 3 tight ends for more than 47% of snaps. It was actually crazy. Mike Gesicki played the least amount of snaps last game out of the Bengals tight ends, which is kind of bizarre there. But I did like, yeah, there you go. Pete went lower on all. Like that's where my mind was going too. Yeah, Eric, all the hires are free. Wow. Pepper Tony saying there's some nice rival picks. Did you peruse the rival stuff yet, Nez?
No, not yet.
I like this one. Kincaid lower on the longest reception. That's
what's that one at?
I mean, his ADOT's been putrid, but like I'd rather bet on less talented players than Dalton Kincaid. At least I know he can do it. I refuse to just type in.
I know, man. I know you're gonna give me an aneurysm.
I'm scrolling, baby. I'm addicted to the scroll. There's Kincaid for you. 16.5 yards on the longest reception.
I just don't like it.
How about this receiving yards number of only 36.5? We got a 36.5, and he's tight end 1 on our slate. Ferg is tight end 1 on those 3 gamers. IMO.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you got Christian Kirk with a higher receiving yards projection in the Pick 'em lobby, and he goes in the last round and sometimes undrafted, than Dalton Kincaid, who goes in like the first there. Like, let's compare that to the Dawson Knox one for half a second. Only 11.5 and 1.5 receptions, but like relative to draft capital spent, like that's not that stark. Like, so Dawson Knox and Eric All are basically the exact same play according to the Pick 'em lobby. It's just cool to like juxtapose.
John, do you know what
Crazy.
Dalton Kincaid's ADOT was last week?
It was 2.
Well, you're close. You're directionally accurate.
What is it?
-2.
Oh my god, that's insane. How does that even happen? I mean, he must have just had like.
Gotta give your tight end, screens, man. You got to give him passes behind the line of scrimmage any chance you get.
All right, I got the thesis on why that happened. They gave him 2 bubble screen targets. Then he got injured, went to the tent, missed those multiple series. I think Krutches said 2. I don't recall. I was at the wedding. I didn't fully watch it. Then he comes back out. They're up by like 15 or something. And then Dawson Knox plays the majority of snaps from there on out.
Seems plausible.
Yeah.
I mean, Kincaid still ran 75% of routes, but obviously just wasn't being used after all that.
Quentin Morris 13%, Dawson Knox 53, Dalton Kincaid 42. He was only out there for 19 snaps. Okay.
I was going to suggest from the Cincy side, taking a look at Zach Moss rushing attempts.
Zach Moss rushing attempts. Okay. That would fit some good game script stuff of them being up and pushing. 12.5. I like that number. I think that's a good shout there, Nez.
Me too. Big time.
80% of snaps last week. Like, even if they're up and they're only up like 2 scores, they're going to leave them on the field for a bit. I like that, dude.
Me too. I think that's a pretty damn good one. Let's get a third in here.
Mm-hmm. And then
what do you think about some ETN lowers?
Yeah, nice.
I don't know if fantasy points is a dangerous game.
Yeah, just because of the touchdown variance.
Mm-hmm. Like you could have a shitty game and then they give him the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
I like the combined.
Okay. I'm cool with that.
76.5 combined. We go the lower on that.
We're such ball knowers.
We add the 50% profit boost up to 100 max. I'm going to add that bad boy in there. We put in 100. That gets us 850. That seems pretty good.
Love that.
All right, let's do it. And it does correlate with like Cook popping off that like ETN would fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's like a very strong correlation. I think that you see that a lot in DFS, and to me it definitely makes sense for this Jags team and the way that they've been playing football.
Beautiful. Yeah, I like that one. I think that was pretty sharp. We got there eventually. I do like. I would like to highlight those other ones, but by the sounds of it, Pete did that this morning. That those lowers on some of the longest reception ones could potentially be. But I do think that ADOT metric from Kincaid last week is misleading. I do think that's a misnomer. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't
I mean,
cite
even
that
the,
as
even the
why.
week before, I guess, like it was also pretty bad. It was
Okay.
5
Okay.
on one target. So
Right. Yeah, one target. There you go. All right, Nez. Let's tie a bow on it there, man. Best of luck in the primetime Palooza to everybody who's playing. Best of luck on the 3-gamer. Best of luck on the 2-gamer. Very unique night on Underdog Fantasy to have a 2-gamer in the same night there. I did see Magikarp chime in the chat as why that was. Underdog, or not Underdog. YouTube wanted to do YouTube TV side-by-side games, kind of like your and my faces right now. I think that was some of the allure from them. They wanted to display their product in showcasing the NFL with side-by-side games. So whether that's true or not, I trust the man there. But yeah, we will be back tomorrow for the definitive Battle Royale and Dog Bowl previews. Get your Mr. Good Boys in the chat ready for that one. That'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern here on the BadgeBros Network. Yeah, if you guys aren't playing on Underdog Fantasy, use promo code MLB at sign up. That helps us out. That helps you out because you get a 50% match deposit up to $1,000 USD right there. Beautiful stuff. Best of luck with your sweats this evening, Nez. Any parting words for the people?
I'm gonna see you in these lobbies. That's for damn sure.
Damn right you will. See you guys in the lobbies here. Everybody's favorite time of the show, but most importantly, Mr. Good Boy's favorite time of the show. The end. Peace.